values input from the community. A single open forum will be provided during tonight's meeting to allow the public an opportunity to address the board. During this time, individuals may share comments or requests related to both agenda and non-agenda items. Those addressing the board are asked to limit their comments to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker should identify their name, group affiliation, if any, and make a brief presentation with an identified solution if one is sought. Remarks should be addressed to the board as a whole. Oral presentations may not include charges against employees or board members by name. It's my responsibility to determine if a person addressing the board has attempted to resolve a concern informally through the district's complaint policy. If not, the speaker will be directed to follow the appropriate policy. The board requests that all presentations be made in a courteous, respectful, and professional manner, and asks that speakers monitor their own behavior. If you wish to speak during the open forum, please fill out one of the cards located on the table in the entry hall. Okay, that takes us to superintendent comments. Dr. Harrington?
No additional comments.
And were there any clarifications necessary from other board members?
None at this time.
Okay. Anything for the open forum? All right. That takes us to a pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, the board will adjourn to closed session pursuant to 5501.072, 55.01074. All right, the board will reconvene in open session and start with reports and presentations. 6.01, special education update. Renee Reek. Good evening.
Hello? There it is. Ooh, that's quite loud. I think I'm going to back off here a little bit. Usually we go over our RDA results, but those are now part of TAPR, so that's in that accountability system, so you will get all of that together. But we are coming to you with a little bit of a special ed update, just looking at numbers and some of the new legislation that came out last year and where we are with that. So we're looking at district priorities, quality indicator 1 and quality indicator 3. And first we're going to look at House Bill 2 and how that impacted special education. We don't have a lot of information. I'd hoped we would have a little more information before I presented to you, but we are supposed to receive a complete overhaul of our funding structure, and it's supposed to be a tiered system based on level of support. So students that have more support should be getting more funding. And just a reminder, this time last year we talked about WADA and how that was allocated and how it was not equitable. For example, a student who only receives speech services and nothing else was receiving more funding than a student who had a nurse sitting next to them and suctioning their trach. So they received less funding than your speech-only kid. So there is a need for this. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We had hoped to hear a little bit more, but by September 1st, we should have a new structure in place. I assume it will require us to go to ARD and change our PEIMS codes for all of those students. So I do think there will be quite a bit of work on our end to get to that new funding structure. So as I know more, I'll let you know either through a Friday update or I'll do another presentation so you know a little more information about that. Another change that came through House Bill 2, which is a good one, is the district will receive $1,000 for each initial evaluation. And so we've already received that money in the district, and it just goes into the general fund for last year. And so I put on there just so you'd have a reference what our initial evaluation numbers look like. Prior to 2021, I've been tracking these numbers for a good 15 years or more, close to 20. And so we were around 500, sometimes 400, and around COVID years, we started jumping to more like 900. So you can see in the last 4 years, we have that $1,000 per eval will be very helpful. Okay. Senate Bill 2, we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Texas Education Freedom Accounts, and we do know a little bit more information about that. I brought with me our Director for Special Education, Dr. Benitez, and she's going to talk with you about that because she receives all of the requests for these evaluations, which we have been receiving since August, I believe.
Thank you. Hi. So I'm going to talk to you about the Texas Education Freedom Accounts, or TEFA. And this is a statewide program that came out of Senate Bill 2, and is the voucher program that allows families to use these education saving accounts for private school tuition, homeschool expenses, or other approved educational expenses. Application open on February 4th, will open on February 4th. The information that you're getting today is coming from guidance that was released by TEA. In November, we are anticipating that we will get additional guidance because this program is governed by the comptroller, so they're working still on the process and figuring this out. But basically, students with disabilities could receive up to $30,000 in an educational savings account. And in order to do that, they have to fill out an application and they have to follow a process. And as part of that process, if the parents suspect that a student has a disability or they already have a disability and then they attend private school, they will have to contact the district of residence, so it's the, where the student resides, and then request that special education evaluation to pursue this education freedom account. If the student is eligible, after we complete that evaluation, we will have to complete, of course, their public school IEP, because it's part of that initial evaluation. But with that, as part of this program, we will have to complete the EFA IEP. So it's an IEP that they're going to use to calculate the amount of funding that that student is going to receive. So really and truly, the eligibility comes down to student having a disability, and with that disability and the amount of supports that they receive, that's what they're going to use to calculate the funding, okay? And then parents will apply after they request that evaluation. They'll apply in a platform that TA is creating, and then we are required to upload that evaluation and the IEP into that platform so they can make the calculations and determine how much the student is going to qualify for. So we have always completed private school evaluations. This is not a new thing. The difference this time is that we typically complete private school evaluations for students whose private school is in our attendance zone. The big difference now is that this opens for students that attend private school in any private school but reside in the district, right? So what I have noticed is that typically around this time, we usually get about 7 evaluations, in the first semester, and then throughout the year, we get up to 20 to 25 requests. This semester alone, we have gotten, and that needs to be updated, as of today, we have gotten 35 private school requests, which is a significant amount of requests. Another thing that I have observed is that typically these evaluations that we have completed in the private schools in our attendance zone are evaluations for dyslexia or speech. What we're seeing now is requests for more complex evaluations that include psychological evaluations that will require additional staff. So we're not only using the diagnostician or a speech pathologist, we're also using a school psychologist and additional support staff as part of that evaluation. And in the impact side, I just wanted for you to kind of have an idea of the paperwork that we have to handle as part of this new program. So if the student resides in the district and attends a private school in our district, we'll have to complete their evaluation. We'll have to do their public school IEP because it's required as part of that evaluation. We'll have to complete the EFA IEP. And we'll also have to recommend a proportionate share plan because those are all the requirements as part of completing an initial evaluation. If the student resides in the district but attends a private school outside of our district, we still have to do the evaluation, complete the public school IEP, and then complete an EFA IEP as part of that evaluation. So the amount of paperwork and the requirements and the amount of staff that is going to be involved to complete all this is significant.
So once that happens, once a student is at the private school, then they have to come back to us and we have to do the yearly evaluation? So that means their teachers have to come in and say, do we have to do the ARD meeting?
So that's a great question. That's a question that I posed to TKs and TA, and I have not gotten a response yet. I do know that the evaluation is still going to follow the 3-year timeline. So, once we evaluate, that evaluation should be good for 3 years. But we are suspecting that they are going to require us to update that IEP yearly. And we don't know the students.
$1,000 that Renee mentioned earlier for these?
They did say that is for the initial evaluations, yes.
They literally said, school districts will now receive this $1,000 that they can use towards this. It's in the FAQ.
Yeah.
Do you have any data on, I know you've been keeping data for a long time, but what's that number looked like 10 years ago? The number of evaluations we were probably having to do, would you say?
Oh, I'd say around 500 or 400. Yeah.
No, for private schools.
Not for private schools? Oh, no. For private schools? No, it was just a handful.
Yeah.
Just a handful?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Like, I have tracked the data, and that's, the average for the last, I want to say at least 6 to 7 years, the average has been 7 at this point, about 20 in the whole year. So the fact that we have gotten 35 requests as of today is very significant. Any other
Following up
questions?
on Ms. Cole's question about the $1,000, so we get the $1,000 for these evaluations and for everything. But you also mentioned that there are quite a few more steps than there have been in the past, and obviously that adds to our costs. Do we believe that the $1,000 that we're getting covers that, or? No,
Not at
that's
all.
not-
Not at all.
So we're covering the additional cost for these kids that never go to our
Yeah,
district?
well,
Okay.
because these evaluations are are comprehensive. All our evaluations are comprehensive, but they require so much staff, and so many hours completing these evaluations. So definitely it's not balancing it out.
Absolutely. One thing I want to add on this particular topic is for for a student to qualify in a public school, they not only have a disability under IDA, but they must also have an educational need. For the Freedom accounts, they only have to have a disability. There is no educational need required. So.
This keeps getting better.
It does. All right. Any questions? We have lots of questions, but
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna have more questions too.
yeah. And as we know more, again, we will send you updates on this.
Do they indicate which private school they're, yeah.
They do. We've received a lot of our requests have come from Catholic schools. We have several from Nolan Catholic and from
Holy Trinity.
Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
So, and they have given their parents a script and have said, you are to call the school districts and request. And we want
They have-
100% participation.
Yes, 100% participation. They have asked for that. The private schools are asking their parents to participate in this program.
That they know maybe have ADHD or dyslexia. I'm sure it's not all parents, but parents they know could qualify.
Do they have to live in our district?
They do. Yes. One thing I will say is that Covenant Christian is not participating in the Freedom accounts. And those 7 that you see up there, we do a lot of Covenant Christian evaluations for proportionate share, but they are not at this time participating.
We're still getting
that
evaluation
program.
requests from them, but the 35 that I indicated are just for the purpose of this program. So we still have more evaluation requests for private school, but are typical, nothing out of the ordinary. The 35 is the one that is just for this purpose.
And the private schools have already had to declare or say that they want to be a part of that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the first things in the FAQ, this is, freedom of choice, right? Is that the students cannot be enrolled in a public school and apply for this.
But I think also another thing that is significant is that within the definition of private school, for us to complete the evaluation, they have to be nonprofit. But within this program, for the purpose of this program, they added a category that is called educational site, which falls into all those private schools that are for-profit, so those parents could apply for this program.
No.
All right, let's go on.
Okay. Yeah, we'll let you know more as we know more and kind of where we are with it as well. This is just our increase in special education numbers. So this is from Snapshot. Today is Monday, and we received our PEMS update, and we are at 16.6 today. So this was from end of October.
Renee, do we have that broken out in any way with the eligibility categories?
We don't have the percentages broken out that way, but I could get that for you.
That'd be great. Friday update.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be this Friday, but I'd like to see. I mean, we've seen the trend going that way year over year. I'd like to see where in the eligibility categories we're really seeing the
Sure.
numbers.
Sure, I can do that. And it might look a little different because that is the percentage compared to the district, but I can get you numbers and
Yeah.
percentages. Because the percentages, when you're looking at eligibilities, they're just in SPED, they're very similar. But when you can see numbers, then you can see over time how much we've increased. Okay? This is, absolutely. These are STAR results, and so this is, I've done this a little differently this time. What we're looking for with our students is growth. So we want to see that second column higher than the approaches. So you can see there's some area for improvement in this. But we also have some celebrations as well. Secondary, again, when we compare to other districts, we look really good in special education. And I'll show you that comparison in a little bit. So that is reading, and this is math. Again, algebra always looks great. 8th grade looks really good. 6th grade's looking strong as well. But like gen ed, we have some work to do in math as well. And this is from RDA. This is our comparison to other districts. Keller's jumped over us a little bit from last year, but we're still outperforming Northwest and Eagle Mountain, Saginaw, and Birdville. And then in secondary, we are competitive with everybody.
Renee, I think it'd be interesting to know how many special ed kids they had that we're competing with, because the bigger the team, the bigger the challenge. And
True.
I know we've been around for a while, I have, and I know even when I was principal, people were talking outside of HEB about moving here for special ed. Mm-hmm. So we've known, y'all doing such a great job. Everybody's trying to get an HEB, and I think that would show up, at least give us an idea of what we're competing against.
Yeah, that's true. We can look at their percentages. My understanding is a lot of districts.
Percentage
Number of students.
special ed.
Right, and Keller's going to be bigger than us, but they're also bigger than us overall. So looking at that is, you might have to look at both. All right, and then some celebrations. We had a perfect rating on our TEA cyclical review last year. We have to do that every 6 years, and TEA's comment was, we have not seen a district this size who has paperwork that looks this good. 6 blended pre-K classrooms, so those are inclusion classrooms that you all approved, and those are great and doing very well, and they're full. We're piloting learning labs on 9 elementary campuses, so that is what you might think of as content mastery, but it's a little more intentional, where students come specifically to work on activities and skills. PLC meetings with elementary math and ELA teachers twice a 6 weeks. We've shifted our behavior facilitator model to support academics, programming, and IEPs. So our facilitators are now assigned to specific campuses, and so they are the first stop for anything SPED on that campus. She's adorable. Teachers trained in AI to assist with IEPs development, lesson plans, and differentiation, and evaluation. Staff trained in AI to assist with writing evaluation reports, but still, I'm a big proponent of you still need to use your brain. And then Special Olympics participation has increased by 115 students in the past 5 years. So with the increase in special ed students, I'm proud to say that our Special Olympics has increased as well. And last year, you also helped us with additional stipends so that we have multiple coaches and assistant coaches for Special Olympics. So I want to thank you for that. All right.
Renee,
and that's it. Yes.
just goes without saying, especially expressed to your team. I mean, these 8 points we gloss over, but that's amazing.
Thank you.
Renee, we've added a lot of positions for special ed. Have you been able to fill them? Are you having trouble filling them? I think it would be helpful if the board had some idea, maybe in a Friday update as well, on the positions that we've added, where we've been able to fill and where we haven't been able to fill.
Sure, we can do that. We have been able to fill a lot of our assistant positions, and I am proud to say, and this was, and it could be because I went out and found help. We went out and found someone and recruited someone, but we do have a teacher for our STEP program that you approved and we just put in place. Which is very important because it's a smaller learning environment, some of our students with great needs. And so we've been able to hire a teacher and an assistant. We do have some long-term subs in some of these positions, but I know going into next year, we should be able to find some of those. But I can kind of show what, like in a chart, what is filled and kind of where we are with that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay?
All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
thank you.
Attendance boundary adjustments, Darla.
Yeah, thanks, Dad. Good evening. So I want to speak to you tonight about a proposed attendance boundary adjustment. This will affect Hurst-Hills and Trinity Lakes Elementary Schools, and I just love these pictures. I had to put them there because Trinity Lakes is beautiful and Hurst-Hills is going to be beautiful as well, so proud of that. This ties into the effectiveness and efficiency district priority under Quality Indicator 2, efficient use of district resources. So the criteria for determining this attendance boundary adjustment has to do with effective utilization of space, geographic proximity to the schools, and then our student enrollment numbers. So here is the first one I wanted to speak to you about. You see that area that's circled in red? That is the area directly across from the old West Hurst Elementary, or the Renee and Lily Mars building now, the Support Staff Center. So that neighborhood currently goes to Trinity Lakes, because when West Hurst, of course, was rebuilt as Trinity Lakes, those students needed to go to school still. And West Hurst was not there, it became Trinity Lakes, so they get bused down to Trinity Lakes. There's about 178 students there, or will, for next year. This is projecting next year's pre-K through sixth graders. I'll show you in a minute on a slide. We would like to rezone those students to the new Hurst-Hills Elementary because it's much closer. The other part of this attendance boundary adjustment would be approximately 137 students currently attending Hurst-Hills that reside south of Highway 10 that currently go to Trinity Lakes Elementary. They are bused to Hurst-Hills. This proposed adjustment would also put them closer to their elementary school, which would be Trinity Lakes. So the top graphic is the current enrollment at the two elementary schools. Hurst-Hills has 472, Trinity Lakes 623, and you see the breakdown of the grade levels. And then with the proposed adjustment, you can see the totals, and those will not be exact because you see the asterisk besides EE, pre-K, and K. Those, we don't exactly know how many are coming, so we just use the current numbers to project next year. Those could be a little bit different. But you can see that it gets the enrollments a little closer to each other instead of having one campus in the 600s and one in the 400s, which is what it would be if we left the attendance boundaries the same as they are right now. So here's the proposed ABA timeline. Of course, here we are tonight with the board report. On January 20th, we would like the board to vote on this as an action item. And then pending the outcome of that, if it's favorable to the board, then we would enact a communication plan the very next day with a letter to parents, update the website, and frequently asked questions. Now I want to pause right there and say the parents have already been informed about the proposed adjustment. This isn't going to come as a surprise to them all of a sudden. They were informed of the proposed adjustment back in December, and we let them know all of this that's coming down the pike possibly, so they were aware. We have received, there's an email address set up to receive questions that they may have, and we've gotten, I think, 9 to date, Deanne, 9 inquiries, and it's people wanting to stay at their current campus, and understandably, and so we're very sensitive to those requests, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. We would like to have parent meetings at the campuses, Hurst-Hills on February 25th, and Trinity Lakes on February 26th, where the principal will introduce herself, tell about the school, take the families on a tour, and make that a very positive first interaction with the new campus.
How does this affect feeder patterns for those elementary kids, what junior high they go to? Does it affect any
It will not
at all?
affect that.
So it's their-
Yeah, which is really nice and clean. This is a really clean
Right.
attendance boundary adjustment. It's the third one I've been involved in, and it just seems the cleanest.
Yes.
They've all made sense. I don't want to say it makes the most sense, but it's the cleanest to me. Transportation will continue to be provided for students who live 2 miles from their campus or on a hazardous route, which will be determined by our transportation, led by Dobie. Students who are part of a schools of choice are already on approved transfers through the 6th grade, so this will not affect them. If they want to stay at their campus, they are absolutely allowed to do so. Any student may apply for a transfer to remain at their current campus, and it will be considered in April. I do want to stress transportation is not provided for transfer students. As you can see by the enrollment numbers, we've got plenty of space at both elementary schools, so I don't think there will be problems with this process, but we do need to use our district process of getting the other things in place and then opening up to these folks. There's no significant change in the percentage of economically disadvantaged students at the 2 campuses if this boundary adjustment does indeed happen.
Can you remind me which schools of choice we have at each of those schools?
So at Hurst-Hills, we have Suzuki, and at Trinity Lakes, we have the new band program, which will actually be the school of choice next year. This year, it was just for those home students. But we have received emails, in fact, from both of those programs, so not a problem for them to be able to stay there. They're already there on especially Hurst-Hills. They've already filled out the transfer. They're already there. And then, of course, our 5th graders going into 6th grade have always been able to fill out a transfer and remain at their home campus as long as there's space. So all of that still applies. Any additional questions? Mr. Campos?
So Darla or Dobie, it appears we're moving these children closer to their homes. What percentage, or is it a significant percentage of them will lose transportation? Or do we know? I'm not saying this is good or bad, I'm just curious.
Well, I take that as 2 possible questions or 2 scenarios there. They could lose transportation because they remain at their campus as a transfer student. So that would be a given.
Right.
The question you might be asking is those kids that are across Precinct Line Road from the old West Hurst, will they be bused? That will need to be determined. I think that will matter if there's a crossing guard right there. I mean, back when West Hurst was in operation right there was a crossing guard,
Right.
and they weren't bused to that campus. It isn't 2 miles away, but I think it depends on the crossing guard. Am I right, Dobie?
Whether or not it's a hazardous
Right.
situation.
Yes.
You're basically getting to my question, so very good.
Yes. Yeah, and then the other way, the Trinity Lakes, I can't picture in my mind where there would be a crossing guard down there. That seems pretty hazardous down there, South Precinct Line Road, but that, that's not my call, but that's my 2 cents.
Darla, can you go to the map on page 6? So, yeah, no.
This one? This
no,
one?
That one right there.
Okay.
Okay, so what's in green right now and is outlined in red, they're moving to Trinity Lakes, right?
Yes.
They're passing river trails. Was there any consideration of involving river trails?
Yes,
in
great
this?
question. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. River Trails does not have the capacity at this point to take those kiddos.
Was there a consideration of involving river trails in the boundary adjustment such that we would move river trails folks to Trinity Lakes?
I think in the future, we've got some property just there by the dotted line, the blue dotted line, out there by 820. There's some land that our demographer shared with us as some future housing. I think this positions us well for the future so that when that housing comes online, in my mind, River Trails is going to make sense for them. And at that point, there would need to be an additional, perhaps, attendance boundary adjustment for those students that live in the yellow but really close to Trinity Lakes to perhaps open up some room at River Trails.
Yes. I'm wondering, Is there not a reason to think about doing that now?
We could consider that.
The other thing, have we heard any feedback from the folks there who are saying, you're taking me to a school that's further away from the school that's closest to me? Has that been any feedback?
I have not seen that feedback. I have not seen anybody asking about going to River Trails versus going to Trinity Lakes.
Yeah, that
wanna
neighborhood had always wanted to come down and expected to stay in River Trails or Fort Worth. And so that had been an issue that we had to deal with about them going north because of capacity. When we looked at River Trails, there wasn't a natural break, a place to divide. And so that River Trails area has stayed stable for a long time. So we decided not to disrupt that at this time, and then move that area, like I said, that circled area, getting it down to at least Trinity Lakes, they feel like they're part of that area. That's their home, and I think that's going to be a better place between one of those two schools. But yeah, we thought about that. You are having to pass that school, but it would disrupt that long-standing boundary that is a pretty self-contained area. And so, again, though, if we get further development, which is a potential down there, we may have to take another look at all of this.
Okay.
And I was just going to throw in, one of the considerations that we discussed was the unintended consequence of moving now causes an imbalance between the campus sizes that is unnecessary at this point, because the demographer is forecasting something that we haven't even broke ground on. And so for that reason, we felt it was more.
Good point.
Any further questions?
Anybody else? All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have House Bill 27, graduation requirements, class of 2030. Fritzy Odom.
Hello, how are y'all?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. Okay, is this my little clicker, just the mouse?
You can use it.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so yes, we're looking at the graduation requirements for the class of 2030 and beyond. So this falls under district priority student success, quality indicator number 4, which is college, career, military readiness, and goal number 1, that all graduates will be college, career, and military ready at graduation. So I just wanted to first review our current graduation requirements. So this is for the class of 2026 through the class of 2029. So basically the current 9th graders through our seniors. So what our current graduation requirements include are the 4 years of the core along with 2 years of foreign language. We also have the half credit of health and full credit of PE, full credit of technology, full credit of fine art, half credit of speech, and the rest are electives. So out of all of those that are listed over there on the left, the ones that are considered to be local graduation requirements is the health, which is a half credit, and technology, which is a full credit. So the state of Texas does not require those. That is just HEB that added those to their graduation requirements years and years ago. So looking at House Bill 27, so Governor Abbott signed that into law, and it goes into effect for the class of 2030, which is our current 8th graders. So it requires all students to complete at least a half credit of personal financial literacy instead of the half credit of economics. So personal financial literacy can be taken by any students in grades 9 through 12. And economics, that course has changed from a half credit to now being a full credit if it is counted as a social studies graduation requirement. So the new social studies graduation requirements under House Bill 27 include 1 full credit of U.S. history, a half credit of government, the new half credit of personal financial literacy, and then the remaining 2 credits, students would be able to choose either between a full credit of human or world geography, which is taken in 9th grade, or they could take a full credit of world history, or they could take a full credit of economics. So looking at the comparison between the personal financial literacy class, which is the new graduation requirement for this year's 8th graders and beyond, the personal financial literacy will focus more on practical individual financial decision making, which is a good thing. Also developing the skills to manage their own personal finances.
And if you're looking at that course replacing what economics teaches, economics, of course, is more the impact of supply and demand on a global basis, also with free enterprise, studying economic theories, and currently about 20% of personal financial literacy is embedded into the economics program or course. So whenever we were looking at the possibility of maybe some of our students graduating without an economics class, that definitely concerned our history department and those economics teachers, because if students are going to be going off to college, they will be required to take an economics class, and we do not want the first time that they're exposed to that material to be whenever they're a freshman sitting at one of their universities. So this is the proposal that we have put in place. It has been taken to the high school and junior high principals, also to ed ops and ELT. So what we are proposing is we have to add in the half credit of personal financial literacy. And to balance some of this out, we are looking at removing the health requirement, which once again, that is just a local district requirement. And also we would still keep health in as an elective option. It would just no longer be a requirement for graduation. And then also removing the full credit of technology. Technology would still be offered a course as an elective, and most of our program of studies, technology is automatically kind of embedded into those programs already. There are a handful of program of studies that do not require technology, but one of the things about removing the technology is, for example, in programs of studies such as cosmetology, automotives, culinary, they do not require a technology credit, but with our district currently requiring it, it does prevent some of those students of having enough room in their schedule to be able to complete the automotive program or the welding program, some of those. So we feel like that will open up some more opportunities for those students to be able to complete those programs. By doing this, that would increase our elective credits, now going from 4 up to 5 credits, which once again just opens up a little more choice for our students to where they can complete those program of studies. And then that's pretty much what I just said. Okay, and then for the social study graduation requirements, what we would then require is still the 1 credit of world and human geography, which is taken in 9th grade, the 1 credit of world history, 1 credit of U.S. history, requiring the half credit of government, the half credit of personal financial literacy, and then in order to keep economics in as a graduation requirement, we would then turn that credit or that half credit into a local district requirement. So that way it ensures that every student that graduates from HEB will be earning a half credit of economics. And it can count as a half credit since we're counting it as a local district requirement and we're not counting it as one of the required social studies courses. Okay. So looking at what the new graduation requirements would be for keys. Basically, it would align with everything that we have in our other proposal. We would still be having the half credit of economics added in, and it still reduces the science down to 3 credits, the social studies down to 3 credits, which is what is already in place, removes the half credit of health, removes the technology, so they're still graduating with 22 credits. Okay, so with our health teachers in HEB, so we would require we would still offer health as an elective credit. If we're looking at what else those teachers could take, there is a course that our Collegiate Academy has proposed, and it's one that we could also bring over to the high schools, which is called Path College to Career 1. And students can earn anywhere from a half to a full credit in 9th through 12th grade. There's also a college pathway career level 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's something that we could offer multiple times. So the teacher qualifications that TEA requires for the certification is just any valid teaching certificate within that grade level. So those health teachers, we could get them trained to teach the pathways to college and career. So that way, in case if their health classes do not fill up based upon electives, they can still teach something else. And most of our health teachers are also PE certified, so they have a variety of other things that they could also teach. Just to let you know what the Pathway to College and Career class will cover, it's the education and training, college readiness, success skills, career exploration, all great things that our students need to be exposed to. And like I said, there are 4 different levels that they can take of that course. Now, for personal financial literacy, so this is the new course that is required in order to teach it, just any business certificate or social studies, if it's grades 6 through 12 or grades 9 through 12 in the areas of economics, social studies, or social studies composite, along with another version of social studies certification, which is grades 7 through 12 and grades 8 through 12. So those are the teaching certificates for the personal financial literacy. So some of our technology classes, those teachers could teach the personal financial literacy if needed. So what our proposal is that we would like to be able to go ahead and start advertising these new graduation requirements starting in January 14th, just because we do need to start our 8th grade conferences at the junior highs. So we would like to start getting this information out so that way our junior high counselors can start moving forward in that area. The other thing is Senate Bill 1191, which is going to be standardizing GPA calculations. We are still waiting to hear from the Commissioner of Education on this. We were hoping to hear something back in December, but that did not happen, and now it's been delayed to the spring of 2026. So that is still pending. So, I know, right? Okay. Do you have any questions? No? Okay, all right.
Dr. Harrington, is this a change that you're just showing us because you plan to make it, or does this require a board vote at the next meeting?
It does not require a board vote, but we wanted to get any feedback from the board. We've talked about too, we reviewed multiple options. We wanted to bring you our recommendation. It really came down to the main recommendation was by far the most important. Fritzy mentioned the GPA. The GPA is probably an even bigger concern because we have kids in class right now, and so we're already talking about building in conditions for hold harmless because we may see a change in how GPA is calculated, and kids, as they are planning their career, are looking at that, and if it changes, it could dramatically affect because they took a course now that they could have done later at a weighted. They may have taken something on purpose that isn't weighted. I mean, this can go back and forth that could adversely affect their GPAs. So we're trying to predict what could happen that we need to hold harmless for these kids. But it's we don't have, we're not going to have a say in this. So we are waiting on the commissioner. We're waiting on the time frame of implementation. But we need that frame because, like I said, these graduation requirements are going in place.
Joe, I know this isn't new, and I know the district's dealt with this before. I mean, do we typically, once these rules change, laws change, sit down with these teachers and say, hey, career path 4 years from now, you're going to be teaching this versus that? Or
You talking about the teachers?
I'm talking about the teachers in this.
Yeah,
case.
no, like I said, we've already talked to, health. Where do we see a lot of our health teachers, PE?
Yeah.
They're in the coaches. We've already talked to Coach Fielder to be talking with his people of like, hey, we've changed. No, we've had changes before. Graduation requirements change and classes change, certifications change. So this is not something our teachers have not had to deal with in the past. Depending on what your certification is, every now and then you're going to have to take a thought and make a decision as to if you're going to try and add something to your certificate if what you've always taught isn't being offered in great numbers anymore, and the other options on your certificate may or may not be what you enjoy teaching. And so those are things that we want to make sure everyone knows and has as much of a runway to what's going on as possible. So we're going to make sure that information is out to everyone. And, those principals do. I mean, those principals, counselors, I have a lot of discussions on that. That's the thing. You never want to change somebody's class just because they can teach it. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable teaching it and at least know that's what I need you to teach. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, that takes us to our regular agenda items. First up is 7.01 Annual Microsoft Software Licensing Renewal. Dr. Hopkins?
Hello, do you have any questions about our renewal?
Has it gone up?
It has. It has. So we're recommending a 3-year contract instead of just one to help reduce the cost.
All right.
Thank you.
That takes us to 7.02 Financial Statements for the month of November. Mr. Williams?
Good evening. Okay, we will be looking at November 30th, 2025 financial statements. So we're still fairly early in the fiscal year, so not a lot of exciting things to report. Not that there are ever, but we'll be looking. I try to make it as fun as possible. I'm running out of things. We're going to be looking at the general fund. The fund balance is $176,516,327. That represents revenues over expenditures in the amount of $931,882. Investment interest as of this reporting period was $1,165,335. Total expenditures we're at 24.43%, so that's just below our threshold. So that fund is performing as expected. General fund expenditure maintenance payroll is at $49,196,828, which is currently at 80.2%. Utilities were at $1,387,739, or 2.3%. Instructional supplies, $1,075,804 was 1.8%, and other expenditures of $2,726,043. And of course, as always, that's property insurance premiums, which did go down some from last year, so we'll take what we can get and hope for more. Child Nutrition Services, fund balance of $7,844,413. That's expenditures over revenue in the amount of $523,163, which it's still early in the year for child nutrition, so those will flip as soon as we start getting reimbursements back from the federal government. Investment interest for this fund was at $44,966. Expenditures were at 19.87%, well below the threshold. So this department continues to operate very well, as it always does. Debt service fund balance of $29,329,820. That represents revenue over expenditures in the amount of $4,275,601. Investment interest for the year as of the reporting period is at $271,281. These, and as I just mentioned that, or I didn't just mention it, but they will begin to increase as tax collections ramp up starting this month. So you'll start seeing debt service revenues creep up there. First payment will be due February 15th in the amount of $18,338,525. The second and final payment will be $58,008,000. Is that a 5 or 6? 68. My eyes aren't working good. $525, and that will be due August 15th. Our total debt service for the year will be at $77,207,050. Tuition-based pre-K fund, that fund balance is $273,419. That's expenditures over revenue of $55,825. The total expenditures as of 11/30 were at 14.32%. We still haven't made an adjustment in accounting for the funds we're getting from the new state revenue that we can flip over on this program because of the teachers that we're getting send their children there for free. So that should, the revenue should increase over the expenditures when we get that accounting adjustment done. Special revenue funds, expenditures as of 11/30, we're at 14.12%. Of course, as always, those expenditures lag behind due to TA reimbursements, but those programs are tracking as expected. Campus Activity Fund, fund balance of $4,416,482. That's revenues over expenditures in the amount of $981,634. Revenues were at $1,573,403, while expenditures were at $591,769. So revenues a little bit more than expenditures at this stage in the year. But those funds are operating as we expect them to as well. 2024 bond, we have a fund balance of $453,661,835. Of course, this will mostly all be expenditures in this fund at this point. So they are expenditures over revenue in the amount of $33,435,839. Investment interest so far this year was $1,708,389. First, of course, you know the first issue we made back in February. We've talked about issuing that second issue of bonds later this summer. We're going to start really monitoring our needs for funds, and we may push this back a little further. The further we can push it, I think in this environment will be better. Because interest rates are starting to decline a little bit. So if we can hold off as long as we can and don't need those funds, that's what we feel like we need to do. So, and the locally defined fund, we really haven't had a lot of activity in this fund of late, but that fund balance is $30,610,485. That's revenue over expenditures in the amount of $80,905. They're still being used, just finishing up some little miscellaneous projects here and there. We really haven't added too many new projects to this as of late, but we may be bringing some asks to the board here in the near future. But that fund is operating as it should also. Any questions for that?
So that takes us to budget transfer and amendment requests.
Okay, we have some very minor budget transfers, just some function-to-function transfers, which you see there in the amount of $1169 and $589, moving from one function to another. Then we have a budget amendment in the amount of $38,868, which is for, I believe, transferring for some extended day profits to be used for intervention, I believe, is what that's for. Right, Brendan? That's it.
Questions? Okay. Very good. Thank you. That takes us to 7.04. We have a couple of items here. College entrance examination board for advanced placement examination fees. Did anybody have any questions about this? Mr. Curbo is not here tonight, but Mr. Williams will. All right. 7.05 is purchase of international baccalaureate examinations. Any questions on that? Okay, very good. Moving to action items. Consider the approval of the January donations for the January board meeting. I'll accept a motion.
I move that the board approve the January 2026 donations as presented.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the January 2026 donations as presented. Please vote. That motion carries. 8.02 is consider approval of submitted contracts for MOU agreements related to HB 3372. Ms. Tuttle.
And we just have one of those this evening that was submitted to you and shared in the board docs and in the Friday update. Are there any questions?
Is there a motion?
Sure. After review of the contracts / MOUs / agreements between following individual administrators and education businesses, open enrollment charter schools, or regional service centers, I move that the board approve the contracts as submitted.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to review the contracts, MOUs, agreements between the following individual administrators and education businesses, open enrollment charter schools, or regional service centers. Please vote. And that motion passes. Is there any board member that would like to place something on a future board agenda?
Yes, I would.
Okay, Mr. Carvel?
Okay, I would like a chart. An example for me would be my name, where I went, San Antonio, what transportation I used, which is airplane, how much was my lodging, how much was my meals, and if I used Uber, maybe put that in transportation. I would like to have that in a chart for every board member.
Does anybody have any questions about that? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, do you have that information, Dr. Harrington? Do you need anything else?
Okay, let me read this. This is one of the things I asked for. It says, Texas Administrative Code, Title 19, Part 2, Chapter 109, AA. A summary schedule must be provided for the fiscal year of total reimbursements received by the superintendent and each board member, including transactions resulting from the use of the school district's credit card to cover expenses incurred by the superintendent and each board member. So I'm not asking for anything out of the ordinary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll get working on that. Okay, can I have the activity chart? It's okay. Okay, it looks like we have everything covered that's upcoming. We do not have another closed session, right, Dr. Harrington? All right, I will accept a motion to adjourn. All right, we are adjourned.